Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a time when the world is louder than it has ever been. Notifications are ringing, opinions are shouting, advertisements are screaming, and every single day the noise tries to drown out your destiny. But deep within you, there's a voice that doesn't scream but whispers, a voice that doesn't demand attention but deserves it, a voice that is your true calling. And the challenge of this generation is not whether we can achieve greatness, but whether we can hear it through all the noise. The noise says you're not enough, but the voice says you were born with enough. The noise tells you to settle, but the voice tells you to rise. The noise pushes you to chase validation, likes, and approval, but the voice reminds you that your purpose is bigger than applause. You see, the danger of noise is that it distracts you from your assignment. And when you get distracted, you forget who you are. Some of you have dreams buried inside you, but you can't hear them anymore because the world's noise has gotten too loud. You're listening to the critics, the doubters, the comparisons, and the chaos, instead of listening to the call of greatness within. Let me tell you something. The voice inside you has the power to guide you, but only if you dare to turn down the noise around you. You've got to make a choice. Will you live by the noise, or will you live by the voice? Because the noise will fade, but the voice will endure. The noise is temporary, but the voice is eternal. The noise is made by people who don't know your future, but the voice was placed inside you by the one who gave you your future. And let me remind you, your calling doesn't need permission. It doesn't need everyone to agree. It doesn't need applause. All it needs is your attention, your obedience, and your courage. So today, I challenge you. Put the phone down, silence the noise, and lean into that voice. Hey, because the moment you stop letting the world's noise dictate your direction and start following the inner voice, the voice that was placed within you, that's the moment your life will transform. Ladies and gentlemen, the world is loud, but your purpose is louder. Stop chasing the noise. Start following the voice. That's where your destiny lives. The difference between external noise and your internal voice is the difference between confusion and clarity. Noise is everywhere. It comes from people who don't understand your journey. It comes from environments that don't support your growth. And it comes from the doubts and fears that creep into your own mind. Noise is loud, distracting, and it wants to pull you in every direction except forward. But your inner voice, that quiet whisper deep inside, is the compass pointing you toward your true purpose. And until you learn to distinguish between the two, you will always feel lost in the crowd. Noise tells you to follow trends, but your voice tells you to follow truth. Noise tells you to do what's popular, but your voice calls you to do what's purposeful. Noise has no loyalty. It shifts with opinions, with seasons, with circumstances. But your voice is consistent, unshakable, always guiding you back to the vision planted in your heart. The problem is, most people don't take time to slow down and listen. They're moving so fast, trying to please everybody else, that they drown out the one sound that could change their lives forever. Think about it when you're confused, overwhelmed, or stuck. It's rarely because your voice is unclear. It's because the noise around you is too loud. Too many opinions, too many comparisons, too many distractions. And when you let the noise lead you, You make decisions based on fear, pressure, or other people's approval. That's why so many people feel unfulfilled, because they've been following the noise, not the voice. But clarity comes when you turn down the volume of the world and turn up the volume of your soul. You can't always control the noise, but you can choose what you give your attention to. You can choose to spend time in reflection, prayer, meditation. Whatever allows you to hear yourself again. Because when you reconnect with that inner voice, you stop chasing after things that don't matter and you start moving in alignment with what does. Confusion is the result of noise. Clarity is the result of voice. And here's the truth. When you are clear, you are powerful. When you are clear, you move with conviction. When you are clear, you don't waste time trying to convince others. You live your purpose, and your purpose convinces them. That's why it's critical that you don't let the noise of the world bury the call inside you. You have to decide daily, will I be guided by the noise that seeks to distract me, or by the voice that seeks to direct me? Because the difference between living a life of confusion and living a life of clarity is whether you choose to honor the noise or honor the voice. And once you choose the voice, once you commit to following that inner compass, you unlock the clarity, courage, and conviction to walk boldly into your destiny. Distractions are the enemy of destiny. We live in a world where everything is fighting for your attention. Social media, the news cycle, endless notifications, and the constant opinions of people who don't even know your story. And if you don't get disciplined about protecting your focus, you'll end up living a life designed by distractions instead of a life driven by purpose. Every dream requires attention, and anything that steals your attention for long enough will eventually steal your dream. You cannot fight for your future while scrolling away your present. You cannot step into your calling if you keep getting trapped by every sound, every trend, and every shiny thing that shows up in your path. Distractions are not always obvious. Sometimes they look like opportunities. But an opportunity that pulls you away from your purpose is not an opportunity. It's a trap. That's why you've got to get serious about asking yourself, does this align with where I'm going, or is it just pulling me away from what really matters? The people who succeed are not always the most talented, the smartest, or the most gifted. They are the ones who have learned how to tune out the noise and stay locked in on their assignment. They understand that every moment of distraction is a moment stolen from progress. They understand that greatness requires focus, and focus requires sacrifice. You cannot do everything and expect to do anything well. The truth is, your destiny is too important to be left vulnerable to every distraction around you. You've got to guard your mind the way you would guard a treasure chest, because your mind is where your vision lives. And your vision is fragile when you allow the wrong voices, the wrong images, the wrong influences to crowd it. When you start treating your focus like your greatest asset, you begin to see growth that others can't even comprehend. Distractions will always exist, but you have to make a decision. Will I live distracted, or will I live directed? Will I give my energy to every little thing that screams for my attention, or will I pour it into the calling that whispers for my obedience? One choice keeps you busy but empty. The other keeps you focused and fulfilled. When you decide to discipline your focus, You begin to build momentum. And momentum is powerful because it multiplies your effort. What once felt impossible starts to feel inevitable because you're no longer scattering your energy, you're channeling it. And when your energy is aligned, when your focus is sharp, when your distractions are under control, nothing can stop you from stepping into the life you were created to live. Your voice is your compass in this noisy world. Deep down inside of you, there is a still, steady, unshakable voice that knows who you are and where you're supposed to go. But here's the challenge. Most people never learn to listen to it. They get so caught up in what others are saying, what society is screaming, what friends, critics, and strangers on the internet are shouting, that they silence their own voice. And when you silence your own voice, you lose your direction. That inner voice is not loud, but it is powerful. It doesn't beg for your attention. It waits for your recognition. That's why so many people miss it. They think purpose is going to come with fireworks and neon lights. But most of the time it comes a whisper in your spirit. It tells you what you're meant to do, who you're meant to be, and where you're meant to go. And if you're not careful, the noise of the world will drown it out. Let me tell you something. Other people's opinions are not your GPS. They don't know your assignment. They don't know your journey. They don't carry the vision that was planted in you. That's why you cannot afford to let their voices weigh more than your own. If you're going to walk in your calling, you must decide that your voice, the voice of purpose inside you, matters more than the noise outside you. When you start listening to your voice, you begin to move differently. You stop chasing validation and start chasing vision. You stop waiting for someone else's permission and start walking in your own conviction. You stop needing applause to keep going because you found alignment that no amount of noise can shake. And that's where true confidence comes from, not from the approval of others, but from the clarity within yourself. Yes, the world will be loud. Yes, distractions will shout. Yes, there will always be critics, doubters, and people who tell you that your dream is too big or your vision is impossible. But remember this, their noise cannot cancel your voice unless you allow it. The world doesn't have the final say on your purpose. That's yours, so make a decision today. Will you live by the noise or by your voice? Will you allow every opinion to pull you in a different direction? Or will you stand anchored in the truth of who you are? Your destiny doesn't come from the crowd. It comes from the calling within. When you choose your voice over the noise, you align yourself with the path that was always meant for you. And that's where you'll find peace, power, and purpose. Distraction is one of the greatest thieves of destiny. It doesn't always show up as something harmful. Sometimes it shows up as something that simply pulls you a little off course, steals a little of your time, takes a little of your energy. Before you know it, you've given hours, days, even years to things that didn't add any real value to your life or move you closer to your calling. And here's the truth. Every moment you spend distracted is a moment you could have spent building the life you were born to live. The world today is louder than it has ever been. Notifications, news, trends, opinions. They all fight for your attention. But your attention is the most valuable currency you have. Where you place it determines the quality of your future. If you waste it on noise, you'll end up with emptiness. If you invest it in your voice, in your vision, in your purpose, you'll end up with fulfillment. The key is learning how to protect your focus like your life depends on it, because it does. Ask yourself, how much of your energy is being stolen by distractions that don't deserve it? How much of your peace is being disrupted by opinions that won't matter 5 years from now? How many of your dreams are being delayed because you keep looking left and right instead of forward? You cannot run your race with speed and strength if you are constantly looking into the stands, waiting to see who's clapping. You've got to fix your eyes on your finish line and run with determination. Discipline is the armor against distraction. You need boundaries for your time, boundaries for your mind, and boundaries for your spirit. Don't let every beep, buzz, or voice have access to you. Learn to say no to what drains you so you can say yes to what defines you. When you start prioritizing your vision over temporary noise, you begin to reclaim your life step by step, decision by decision. Understand this: every distraction has one goal: to delay your destiny. And destiny delayed can sometimes become destiny denied. That's why you must guard your focus as fiercely as a soldier guards a treasure. Because your treasure is your time. Your treasure is your clarity. Your treasure is your peace. And the more you protect it, the stronger your voice becomes, and the weaker the noise around you sounds. So decide today. You will no longer allow distractions to dictate your direction. You will not be a prisoner of noise. You will be a protector of your purpose. And once you make that choice, you will find yourself walking lighter, thinking clearer, and moving faster toward the life that has been waiting for you all along. Your voice is the compass to your destiny. It's that whisper inside of you that says, this is who you are. This is what you're here to do. And while the noise of the world is loud, constant, and overwhelming, your inner voice is steady, calm, and persistent. The problem is, most people never slow down long enough to hear it. They're so consumed by outside chatter, opinions, expectations, comparisons, that they miss the most important sound of all, their own truth. You see, your calling won't scream at you. It won't compete with the chaos around you. It speaks in moments of stillness, in flashes of clarity, in those gut feelings you can't shake. That's why you have to create space to hear it. When was the last time you turned everything off and just listened? No phone, no television, no distractions. Just you, your thoughts, and your spirit. Because that's where direction lies. That's where guidance begins. Now, don't get me wrong. Listening to your voice doesn't mean the path will be easy. In fact, it often leads you down roads where others won't understand you. People may question you. They may laugh at you. They may even walk away from you. But your voice isn't meant for their approval. It's meant for your assignment. And when you align yourself with that inner calling, something powerful happens. You start to live a life of meaning rather than a life of pleasing. Your voice knows the difference between temporary applause and lasting fulfillment. The crowd will cheer one day and forget you the next. But your calling will never leave you. It will wake you up at night. It will tug at your heart. It will pull you towards something greater, even when you feel unqualified or unprepared. That's the beauty of it. It doesn't call you because you're ready. It calls you because you're chosen. And here's the truth. When you start listening to that voice, the noise begins to fade. You stop caring so much about who's clapping and who's criticizing. You stop comparing yourself to what everyone else is doing. You stop needing permission to be who you already are. You start moving with conviction, with courage, with clarity. And every step you take in alignment with your purpose strengthens your voice and weakens the power of the noise. So today I challenge you, tune into your inner voice. Trust it, follow it, protect it. Because that voice is the purest version of you. And once you embrace it, you won't just find your calling, you'll start living it unapologetically, boldly, and powerfully. And that, my friends, is how you rise above the noise and step into the greatness that was waiting for you all along. Would you like me to now create the SEO friendly YouTube description for this speech the same way I've done for your other titles?